Time doesn't raise its voice, but it never forgets to teach. Hi there. If you're over 50, you've probably felt it too, that quiet shift deep inside. The sense that life is no longer about rushing or proving anything, but about understanding. Understanding what truly matters. Who stays? Who leaves? What heals? And what was never yours to fix. These are the kinds of truths no one tells you when you're young. Because you can't learn them from books. You can't learn them from advice. You can only learn them slowly through time. And today, I want to share with you 9 quiet truths that time teaches us, only when we are finally ready to hear them. Some of these truths may feel tender. Some may feel like they've been living inside you all along, just waiting for words. But all of them, every single one, is worth hearing. So I invite you now, take a breath. Stay with me till the end. And if you find even one truth that touches your heart, don't forget to subscribe so you and I can keep walking this deeper journey together. Because life doesn't end after 50. In fact, the most meaningful lessons often arrive just in time. 1. You can't control everything, but you can always choose how you respond. When we are young, we try to bend the world to our will. We make plans. We map out our futures. We think if we just work hard enough, plan smart enough, stay strong enough, we can prevent the storms. We believe, deep down, that we are in control. But then, life happens. An unexpected illness. The loss of someone we love. A job we gave everything to. Gone. A phone call in the middle of the night that changes everything. And just like that, the illusion of control slips quietly through our fingers. Time, however, doesn't laugh at us for believing we could control it all. It doesn't mock our efforts. Instead, time gently, steadily teaches us a far greater truth. You can't control everything that happens to you, but you can always choose how you respond. And that is where your real power lies. Let me tell you a story. A woman I met in her 70s once told me about the moment she truly understood this lesson. Her husband of 42 years had passed away unexpectedly. No warning. No chance to say goodbye. She said, "At first, I wanted to rage at the world. I wanted to scream, to throw something, to curse God. But then I sat in the quiet and realized that none of that would bring him back. None of that would ease the pain. What she chose instead was breath. Each morning, she would wake up, put her hand over her heart, and say, 'I choose grace today. I choose to breathe. I choose to carry his love, not just the loss.' She didn't choose what happened, but she chose how to live through it. And day by day, her response became her healing. The truth is, life is unpredictable, especially as we get older. You might lose things you thought were permanent. Your health might change. Your children might make choices you don't understand. The world might feel faster, louder, harder to keep up with. But even when everything around you feels uncertain, you still own one thing: your response. You get to choose whether to let bitterness take root, or to let it pass like a storm cloud. You get to choose whether to hold on to anger, or to release it, not because they deserve forgiveness, but because you deserve peace. You get to choose whether to focus on what's gone, or what's still here. It starts in small moments. The pause before reacting. The deep breath before speaking. The decision to listen instead of argue. To rest instead of rush. To soften instead of shut down. These are not small things. These are the daily, quiet revolutions of the soul. And they are how you reclaim your power, not by controlling life, but by responding to it with wisdom. So if life has thrown something heavy your way, take heart. You don't need to have all the answers. You don't need to fix everything. You don't even need to feel strong every day. But you can choose your next breath. You can choose to stay open. You can choose to meet life even now with the quiet strength that time has placed within you. That, dear friend, is what true resilience looks like. And that is the kind of strength no one can ever take away. 2. Not everyone who leaves is a loss. There was a time when you couldn't imagine life without them. Maybe it was a friend who felt like family. A partner who once held your entire heart. A sibling, a child, or even someone who walked into your life for a season and lit up the room just by being in it. You loved them. You built memories with them. And you truly believed they would walk beside you forever. But then, one day, they were gone. Not always through death. Sometimes through distance. Sometimes through silence. Sometimes, most painfully, through a quiet unraveling you never saw coming. At first, it feels like a deep tearing inside the chest, a kind of invisible amputation. You wonder if you'll ever feel whole again. But time, that slow and patient teacher, offers you something precious. Not answers, necessarily, but clarity. Time reveals something you couldn't see in the fog of grief. Not everyone who leaves your life is a loss, because not everyone is meant to stay forever. Some people come to teach us. Some come to reflect something back to us. Some come simply to walk with us through one chapter, not the whole story. And when we try to hold on too tightly, we miss the quiet truth. Their leaving isn't always betrayal. Sometimes, it's alignment, a gentle redirection, a sign that the path you're on now, the one you're meant to walk, requires a different kind of companion. Or even, for a time, solitude. There's a story an older gentleman once shared with me. He was married for over 30 years. They raised children, built a home, lived through hardship together. But eventually, they drifted apart. The bond faded. The conversations stopped. And one day, she packed a suitcase and left. He told me, for years, I thought I'd lost the love of my life. But now, I see I lost someone I once loved deeply, and that's different. He went on to say, the love we shared was real. But it had an expiration date. And that doesn't make it any less valuable. It just means it served its time. That wisdom, only time can give. Because healing doesn't mean erasing someone. It means honoring what they gave you, the laughter, the lessons, even the pain that grew you, and still letting them go without bitterness. You start to say, thank you for being part of my life, even if it was only for a while. You start to believe that your worth was never dependent on their staying, and that your journey, though changed, is still worthy, still beautiful, still unfolding. Letting go is not the same as forgetting, and moving on is not the same as erasing. It's choosing peace over resentment, gratitude over regret, freedom over clinging to something that no longer fits. So if there's someone you're still grieving, someone you thought would be by your side until the end, let this be your gentle reminder. Not all departures are tragedies. Some are mercies in disguise. Because the space they left behind, it's not emptiness. It's room for something new. New friendships, new clarity, new parts of yourself you've never had the chance to meet. And maybe, just maybe, this part of your life isn't about holding on, but about learning how to open your hands. Number 3. Silence isn't something to fear sometimes, it's where the soul finds its way home. When we were younger, silence often felt unbearable. We filled every quiet space with noise. The television humming in the background. The radio playing in an empty car. Small talk just to avoid hearing our own thoughts. It wasn't always conscious. But deep down, we feared what the silence might reveal. Would it show us the loneliness we tried to ignore? Would it echo back the doubts we were too busy to face? So we kept moving, kept talking, kept distracting ourselves from the stillness that always followed us home. But then, somewhere along the way, maybe after 50, maybe after loss, or simply after life slowed us down, something shifted. One morning, you wake up early, and the world is quiet. No one needs you. No one is calling. There's just you, and the soft hum of morning light pouring through the window. And instead of reaching for the remote or the phone, you sit. Just sit. And breathe. And to your surprise, it doesn't feel empty. It feels sacred. That is the quiet transformation time brings. It teaches you that silence isn't a threat. It's an invitation. An invitation to hear what you've been carrying. To feel what you've been pushing down. To reconnect with the voice inside you, the one that's always been there, just waiting for you to stop and listen. I remember a man in his 60s telling me once, for most of my life, I thought being alone with my thoughts was dangerous. But now, I sit on my porch every evening with nothing but a cup of tea and the wind. And I swear, those moments have taught me more than any book ever did. That's what silence does. It becomes the soft ground where truth finally has room to rise. In silence, you remember the people you've loved. You forgive what still lingers. You let go of what no longer fits. And most of all, you begin to hear yourself again. Not the version of you shaped by expectation or noise, but the you that has grown wiser, softer, and more honest with time. This kind of silence isn't empty. It's full. Full of presence. full of meaning, full of the gentle knowing that you don't need to rush, perform, or prove anything anymore. You just need to be. So if you find yourself in more silence these days, if the house is quieter than it used to be, if the phone doesn't ring as often, if your days stretch out in long, unhurried hours, don't be afraid. You're not being forgotten. You're being invited. Invited to a deeper kind of living, a richer kind of seeing, a quieter kind of knowing. Because sometimes, the soul doesn't need answers. It just needs stillness. And in that stillness, it finds its way home. 4. Simplicity is the highest form of luxury. When we were younger, luxury had a different meaning. It looked like expensive handbags, shiny cars, lavish parties, designer clothes, 5-star vacations. We chased it not always out of greed, but because we believed it represented success. We believed the more we owned, the more we mattered. And for a while, maybe it worked. But time quiet and persistent has a way of reshaping our definitions. Because as the years pass, something beautiful happens. We start to value what money can't buy. Not because we've given up on the world, but because we've begun to see it more clearly. One afternoon, I visited a friend in her 70s. Her home was modest, no granite countertops, no marble floors, no expensive artwork on the walls. But the moment I stepped inside, I felt something rare, peace. There was a pot of tea steaming quietly on the table. A window left open just enough for the breeze to come through. Her favorite chair, a little worn, but full of memory. She looked at me, smiled, and said, "Funny, isn't it? When I was younger, I thought I needed more. Now I realize I already have everything." That moment stayed with me, because this is what time teaches us. That simplicity is not emptiness. It is refinement. It is presence. It is knowing the difference between what's essential and what's just noise. A hot cup of tea on a quiet morning. The sun warming your face as it rises over the trees. A handwritten note from a friend. The gentle touch of a partner's hand without a single word spoken. These are the luxuries that become more valuable with age, because now we finally have the time, the space, and the wisdom to notice them. You begin to realize that joy doesn't come in large, dramatic moments. It comes in sips, in glances, in stillness. There's a kind of richness in owning fewer things, but loving each of them more, in having fewer obligations, but showing up more fully to each one, in speaking fewer words, but meaning every single one. And slowly, the need to impress fades. The desire to compare disappears. And in its place grows something quieter and much more powerful: contentment. You don't need the biggest house to feel at home. You don't need a closet full of clothes to feel beautiful. You don't need to be seen by the world to feel seen by the people who matter. You just need moments. Real ones. Simple ones. Unfiltered, unperformed, and unmistakably yours. So if life has slowed down, let it. If the parties have become smaller, treasure them. If the noise of youth has given way to the calm of routine, lean into it. Because this is where the real richness lives. Not in what you can post, not in what you can buy, but in what you can feel quietly, fully, and deeply when you no longer need more. And if you've made it to this point in life with the ability to notice beauty in the simple things, then you, my friend, are among the truly wealthy. 5. No one understands you the way you understand yourself, and that's not a tragedy. It's a liberation. When we were younger, we longed to be known fully, deeply, effortlessly. We hoped someone would look into our eyes and just get it. Understand the words we couldn't say. See the wounds we were too proud or too afraid to reveal. Feel the dreams we barely whispered, even to ourselves. We believed that one day, someone would come along and gently put their hand on our shoulder and say, "I see all of you, even the parts you hide, and I still choose you." And maybe, someone did. Or maybe, no one ever quite could. Because here's what time eventually teaches us. No one, not even the most loving partner, the most attentive child, the closest friend can understand us completely. Not because they don't care. Not because they're not trying. But because they are not living inside us. They don't carry our memories. They don't feel the things that stir when certain songs play. They don't know what we are silently grieving while standing in a grocery store aisle. And that realization when it first hits can feel a little lonely. But then, something remarkable happens. We stop waiting. We stop waiting for someone else to give us permission to feel what we feel. We stop expecting others to fill spaces only we can truly inhabit. We stop needing to be seen in ways even we haven't fully learned to see ourselves. And instead, we begin to come home. To ourselves. We start asking ourselves, what do I need right now? What truth am I hiding from? What would it look like to show up for myself, even if no one else quite understands? And in that turning inward, a quiet strength awakens. We begin to trust our own voice more than the noise around us. We begin to walk more slowly, but more surely. We stop explaining ourselves and start honoring ourselves. There's something powerful, even sacred, about reaching a point in life where you can sit with yourself and say, I may not be perfect, but I know myself, and I accept who I am. A woman I once met in her late 60s said it like this: for years, I wanted someone to understand why I hurt the way I did. But now I realize, I don't need them to. I just need to understand it myself. That's enough. Her words were soft, but steady. Not bitter. Not closed. Just free. Because when you stop demanding to be understood by others, you open the door to understanding yourself deeply, gently, without judgment. And that is where real peace begins. So if you've spent years waiting for someone to get you, if you've felt frustrated, unseen, misunderstood, let me offer you this. Maybe the point was never to be understood completely by someone else. Maybe the point was to learn how to listen to yourself, how to stand by yourself, especially when no one else can quite walk the path with you. And maybe, just maybe, that's not a loss. It's your freedom. 6. Love isn't perfect, but it's still worth giving. When we were younger, many of us dreamed of a perfect love, the kind that lasts forever, without arguments, without tears, without heartbreak. We imagined someone who would understand us completely, love us unconditionally, and never let us down. But life, in all its wisdom, had other lessons in store. Over the years, we've come to realize that real love is rarely perfect. It stumbles. It misunderstands. It hurts sometimes. Even the people we love the most can let us down, not because they don't care, but because they're human. Just like we are. Flawed. Vulnerable. Sometimes confused or afraid. And yet, something beautiful happens when we choose to stay. When we continue to love someone even after we've seen their imperfections. When we decide that love isn't about finding the flawless person, but about holding on to each other through the mess, through the silence, through the days when it's easier to walk away than to stay and try again. Love becomes sacred not because it is perfect, but because we choose it anyway. It's in the small, quiet moments. The apology after an argument. The hand that reaches out in the dark. The way someone still remembers how you take your coffee, even after 30 years. The willingness to grow together, to forgive, to keep choosing one another, again and again. This kind of love, the imperfect kind, is not less beautiful. In fact, it may be the most beautiful of all. Because it reminds us, the deepest connections in life aren't found. They are built. With patience. With compassion. With grace. And as we grow older, we learn this quiet truth. Love is not something that happens to us, it's something we offer, wholeheartedly, even when it's hard. So, if you've been hurt in love, if you're still waiting for someone to love you right, or if you're wondering whether love is worth the risk in the second half of life, let this be your gentle reminder. Love doesn't have to be perfect to be real. It only has to be true. Keep your heart open. Keep showing up. Because the love that endures is the love that keeps giving. Stay with me. Friend, the next message is one of the most powerful of all. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss it. 7. Your body may age, but your soul can feel younger than ever. There's a quiet truth that no one really prepares us for. Our bodies will inevitably grow older, but our inner world, our soul, our spirit can become more vibrant, more free, and more at peace than ever before. Wrinkles will come. Hair will turn grey, then white. Knees may creak. Hands may tremble. You might find yourself walking slower than you used to, getting tired more easily, or needing more rest than you once did. These are the changes we expect with age. But what many people don't realize, not until they've lived through the seasons of life, is that growing older can be the doorway to a kind of freedom you never had when you were young. I remember sitting on a park bench in early autumn, leaves falling like whispers around us, when a 78-year-old woman beside me smiled and said something I'll never forget. You know, she said, I've never felt this free in my entire life. I don't care what others think anymore. I say what I mean. I cry when I need to. I laugh louder than I should. It took me nearly 8 decades to stop apologizing for being myself. And that, my friend, is the quiet magic of aging with awareness. You see, in our youth, we are often caught in a storm of needing to prove ourselves. We want to be good enough, attractive enough, successful enough, smart enough. We carry the weight of comparison, the pressure of perfection, the fear of not fitting in. But as we age, if we allow ourselves to reflect deeply, something begins to shift. We realize we don't need to impress anyone. We understand that time is too precious to waste on shallow approval. And we begin to hear the voice of our own soul more clearly than ever. This is where aging becomes not a burden, but a liberation. Your body may no longer move the way it used to, but your heart, your emotional wisdom, your resilience, your compassion becomes lighter. Your priorities shift from chasing to cherishing. You begin to choose peace over performance, silence over noise, presence over perfection. This doesn't mean life becomes easy. Aging comes with real loss, with real grief. But it also brings the unexpected gifts of clarity and gratitude. You start to see that joy doesn't come from the outside. Not from what you own, not from how you look, not from how others see you. It comes from knowing who you are and being okay with that. Maybe that's why some of the most radiant people I've ever met are well past 70. They shine from the inside out, not because of anything flashy or youthful, but because they are finally real. They have nothing to prove, nothing to chase, nothing to hide. So if you're finding yourself frustrated by the signs of aging, the mirror reflecting changes, the body slowing down, the calendar pages turning, I invite you to look deeper. Ask yourself, what am I freer from now than I was at 25? What can I see more clearly now that time has softened my edges? What joy is available to me now that I'm no longer trying to be someone I'm not? Because the truth is, your body may grow older, but your spirit can grow lighter. Your mind can become clearer. Your heart can become more open. And sometimes, just sometimes, when you're fully present, when you're truly yourself, when you've stopped racing and started resting, you may find that your soul feels younger than it ever has. So take a deep breath. Smile at the lines on your face. You've earned every one of them. Let your body age, but never stop your soul from dancing. Stay with us, there's one final message waiting for you. It's gentle, it's deep, and it just might change how you see everything. Don't miss it. 8. Forgiveness isn't for them, it's for your own peace. There's something we don't talk about enough as we get older, not in family dinners, not in doctor's visits, and not even in late-night conversations with our oldest friends. It's this quiet truth. Many of the people who hurt us the most will never say they're sorry. They may never acknowledge what they did. They may have forgotten entirely, or worse, believe they did nothing wrong. And yet here we are, still carrying it. A word that cut too deep. A betrayal that broke something in us. A silence that screamed louder than any goodbye. As we age, the weight of old wounds doesn't necessarily disappear. In fact, some become heavier. The body grows slower, the bones more fragile, but the heart? The heart often carries the past like a sealed box in the attic of our mind. But here's the lesson. You don't need an apology to begin healing. Because forgiveness, real forgiveness, was never about letting someone else off the hook. It's about setting yourself free. A few years ago, I met a man named Carl at a community center just outside Chicago. He was 83 years old, still sharp, still charming, but when we sat down to talk, I noticed his voice trembled when he spoke of his younger brother. He stole money from our mother, Carl told me, back in the 70s. Left us to care for her alone, never came back. I haven't spoken to him in 40 years. I asked him, do you think about him? Carl looked down and said, every day. I don't hate him anymore. But I never got to say anything. And he never said he was sorry. We sat there in silence. The kind of silence that holds years of unsaid words. Then Carl added quietly, I don't know if I want to carry this into the grave. That conversation has stayed with me. Because Carl's story isn't rare, it's heartbreakingly common. So many older adults live with quiet grief. Grief over relationships that ended badly. Over words that were never spoken. Over the apology that never came. But here's what science and psychology now affirm. Forgiveness is not about reconciliation. It's not about forgetting. It's not about saying, it's okay when it clearly wasn't. It's about refusing to let someone else's choices chain you to suffering any longer. Studies from Stanford University show that older adults who practice forgiveness even silently, even without contact, experience lower blood pressure, reduced anxiety, and greater emotional resilience. It literally frees the nervous system from chronic tension. Forgiveness is medicine not for the one who hurt you, but for the one who's still hurting, you. It's the act of saying, "You no longer get to live in my thoughts rent-free." It's the quiet moment when you exhale and whisper, "I'm done carrying this weight." It's not weakness. It's strength, the kind only the wise and weathered truly understand. Of course, forgiveness doesn't mean returning to toxic people. It doesn't mean denying the pain or pretending things didn't happen. It means honoring the pain and then choosing to move forward anyway. It's like putting down a bag of stones you've carried for decades. They were real. Heavy. Yours. But now, you no longer need them to prove what you've survived. You've already survived it. You're already enough. And you're allowed finally to feel peace. I once read a line that said, "You can't begin the next chapter of your life if you keep rereading the last one." If you're in your 60s, 70s, or 80s, you deserve peace now. Not someday. Not when they say sorry. Not when the past finally feels fair. Right now. You deserve a future that isn't ruled by the shadows of your yesterday. And the key to that future? It's not in someone else's hands. It's in yours. It begins the moment you choose yourself, your freedom, your softness, your rest over the pain they left behind. So today, just ask yourself one quiet question. What would it feel like to finally forgive, not for them, but for you? And if that answer feels like peace, like breath, like a little more light in the room, then maybe, just maybe, it's time. Let go. Not because they deserve it, but because you do. 9. Life isn't always fair, but there's always something to be grateful for. Somewhere along the winding road of life, we all encounter moments that simply don't make sense. Loss that feels too heavy. Injustice that leaves no explanation. Heartbreak that never really receives its closure. If you've lived long enough, you've likely faced a moment where you looked up and whispered, "Why me?" And the truth is, sometimes there is no answer. Life, for all its beauty, is not always fair. Good people suffer. Hard work doesn't always pay off. Those who love deeply often carry the deepest wounds. But here's the quiet miracle that many people discover only later in life. Even in the middle of pain, there is something, however small, that can still stir gratitude. A gentle breeze through your window on a restless night. The warm weight of a cup of tea in your hands. The unexpected sound of your favorite song on the radio. The voice of an old friend calling just to check in. These things don't erase the unfairness. They don't undo the damage. But they do remind you that your soul is still capable of feeling light, even when life feels heavy. Gratitude doesn't mean denying your pain. It means choosing not to let the pain define the whole picture. It means saying, "Yes, this hurts, and yes, I still see the beauty in this moment." When we are young, it's easy to think of gratitude as something that depends on things going well. We are thankful when life gives us what we want. When we are promoted. When someone loves us back. When plans work out. But when we age, when we've lived through the days that fell apart, the dreams that never arrived, the illnesses that weren't cured, we start to understand something more profound. Gratitude is not about conditions. It's about perspective. You don't have to pretend that life is perfect to be thankful. You only have to be present. One woman, a former nurse in her early 80s, once told me, "I used to wait for big things to be grateful for. Now, I find it in the smallest places: a smile from my grandson, the way the garden smells in spring, how my husband still reaches for my hand when we cross the street." She had lost people. She had battled illness. She had seen unfairness close up in hospital rooms, in courtrooms, even in her own life. And yet, she smiled as she said those words, not because her life was easy, but because her heart had learned where to rest. That's the shift. A young heart often demands answers. But a wise heart knows how to look for light even when the questions remain. You see, the more we cling to the idea that life must be fair, the more we suffer when it's not. But the more we learn to accept life on its own terms and still find something beautiful within it, the more peace we create for ourselves. You don't need to wait for life to get better to be thankful. You just need to look closer. If today you woke up with breath in your lungs, if your legs carried you to the kitchen, if someone spoke your name with kindness, if you had a moment of laughter, if the sky held color, if the wind brushed your skin, then somewhere in all that, there was something to be thankful for. even if no one else sees it, even if the day still brings pain, even if life feels unfair. Gratitude doesn't change the facts, but it changes you. It makes you softer where you could grow bitter, wiser where you could grow weary, and more open-hearted where you might have closed off long ago. As you grow older, you may find yourself collecting quiet moments like these tiny anchors that hold you steady in an unpredictable world. You begin to see that the sun doesn't have to shine for your heart to be warm. So today, look for just one thing to be thankful for. Write it down. Whisper it. Smile at it. And let that be enough. Because gratitude is not a result of a perfect life, it's a practice. And the more you choose it, the more it reveals itself. Life isn't always fair. But if you're paying attention, it's still breathtaking. So here we are, my friend. 9 quiet truths. 9 gentle lessons time teaches us not through textbooks or lectures but through living, stumbling, aching, forgiving, and slowly understanding. You see, time is the most patient teacher we will ever meet. It doesn't arrive with fanfare or grand announcements. It shows up quietly, in the middle of sleepless nights, in the silence after a difficult conversation, in the long pauses where life doesn't go the way we hoped. It teaches us through the weight of a goodbye, through the ache of not being understood, through the stretch of days that feel ordinary but in hindsight, were full of quiet wisdom. And if you've made it to the end of this message, I want you to pause for just a moment. Breathe. Because if even one of these 9 lessons spoke to something inside you, then congratulations. You've been paying attention. You've been living with your heart open, even when it hurt. You've been walking the path with honesty, even when it was steep. You've felt what it means to be human. That is no small thing. And for those of you watching who are in your 50s, 60s, or beyond, please know this. You are not late. You are not behind. You are right on time for the lessons that matter most. So many people spend their early years rushing to get ahead, chasing titles, chasing approval, chasing answers. But the deeper truths, the ones that shape our soul, soften our heart, and give us peace, they usually arrive later. Often when the noise quiets. When the children are grown, the job is behind us, and the mirror shows a few more lines. It is then often for the first time we begin to really see. To see what love actually looks like when it isn't tied to condition. To see what strength means when it's quiet, not loud. To see what gratitude feels like when we've lost a few things we once took for granted. And here's what I've come to believe. The final chapters of our life are not meant to be a slow fade into silence. They are a masterpiece in the making. They are a time for refinement, not retirement from meaning. A time for deeper connection, not disconnection. A time for healing, forgiving, letting go and holding on to what truly matters. If you've ever thought, it's too late for me to change, I want you to know, the most profound growth often comes after 50. That's when the soul is ripe for truth. That's when our ego softens enough to finally learn. And if you've ever felt unseen, or unheard, or as if your best years are behind you, I want to say this as clearly as I can. You are still needed. Your wisdom is still relevant. Your presence still matters more than you know. The world doesn't just need fresh faces and fast answers. It needs depth. It needs perspective. It needs those who have lived enough to speak from experience, and loved enough to speak from the heart. And that might just be you. So if this message stirred something in you today, if you found a piece of yourself in one of these 9 truths, please consider subscribing to this channel. Because we are building something special here. A place for thoughtful reflection. For real conversation. For voices like yours. For stories that don't get told enough but need to be. And for a reminder, every now and then, that aging isn't a decline. It's a deepening. A return. A reawakening to what matters most. So stay with me. Let's keep learning together. Let's keep feeling deeply, growing slowly, and honoring the quiet, powerful life you're still creating. And whatever age you are right now, please remember, the best lessons often arrive in the final chapters. The richest sunsets come after the longest days. And the most beautiful wisdom often takes a lifetime to fully understand. So take heart. You're not finished yet. You're becoming.